Hello there, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, I don't know, but you're welcome. You're welcome to episode number 4 of the Microsoft Partner Quick Bytes. This is actually part 2 of part 1 as we started in episode number 3, but more on that after this very important message. Thank you very much, dear sponsors, SmartWorks, TD Cynics, also Arrow, Copaco, Clear Media and Ingram Macro. Because without you, without your support, these sessions wouldn't be possible. So thank you very much. Also, thank you a lot to all subscribers, to all people already subscribed to this channel. We plan to have at least 50 of these sessions in the coming 11 months. So this is episode number 4. In order to not miss any of the next episodes, please subscribe to this channel. In YouTube, click on the subscribe button, not there, but in the left corner of your screen, just under the video playback screen. So thank you all very much. As I said, this is episode number 4, but episode number 4 is actually part 2 of what we introduced already in part 1 with the topic AI Business Solutions Partner Playbook. Actually, I plan to do 3 of these sessions. So this is session number 1, which is part 1 and part 2, really focused on AI business solutions. There will be another recording on a partner playbook, but then related to Azure, and then yet another partner playbook session or video recording related to security. All these recordings will be available in the next 2 weeks actually. So let's get started with part 2, and let me immediately also summarize a little bit what we covered in part 1 with a few slides, and I promise I'll keep it really short. Not easy for me, but I'll do my best. There we go. As I started the other time, it's all about the playbooks, and we have a playbook per cloud solution area. We actually have 3 cloud solution areas, AI business solutions, cloud and AI platforms, and security. You can download each of the playbooks by clicking these URLs. The URLs typically always will be in the description section of this video. So don't try to copy them or video them or photograph them. Just click in the descriptions in the video here below. Now, if you cannot remember the URL, this URL is easy to remember. Just go to the partner portal, partner.microsoft.com, click partnership, click solution areas, which brings you to this page, and then on for each playbook there is a link. There is a link specifically for each of the playbooks. So for instance, if you click AI Business Solutions, that is the playbook that we discussed in part 1, and we will continue to discuss here in part 2, there you will be able to download it. What you will see there is like an overview of the content, and actually the point I made the previous time, if you compare all playbooks, they all have the same structure. Actually the structure is like this. It always starts with business overview, then it's about opportunity partners and GTM strategy, and solution plays and partner GTM. And that's actually what we covered in part 1. In part 1 we covered all these topics. So check out Quick Bytes number 3 if you want to see the full story on that. Now, what I can do here, I will show you actually just 3 slides which nicely summarizes each of these sections. For the business overview, it's very simple. You again see all 3 solution areas, and then you see specifically for AI business solutions that it's actually a combination of 2 separate solution areas as we did know them in fiscal 25. So in fiscal 26, this fiscal year, Microsoft did combine modern work, which is now renamed to AI Workspace, and everything related to business applications, they renamed to AI Business Process, into one single cloud solution area. And in yellow you see then the priorities that align to this specific solution area, which of course is all about Copilot and agents, of course, and it's all about core execution of selling and deploying and making customers at the end of the day successful with Microsoft 365 and Dynamics 365. Now, in regard to the strategy that Microsoft offers us for going to market, I showed this slide, and in this slide you see in the first column all the solution plays. The top one is related to AI workforce, so Microsoft 365 modern work, and the lower ones are related to Dynamics or related to business applications. And actually the Power Apps and Power Automate Copilot Studio is actually a little bit in the middle. So it's related on the slide to Dynamics, AI business process, but it is also very related, as I will show you later in this session, to modern work or AI workforce. The point was that for SMB, which is the focus of these sessions, still, like in previous fiscal year, the hero solution plays are Copilot, which is now renamed to Copilot and Agent at Work, and Secure Productivity, which is now renamed to Secure AI Productivity. In the context of AI business process, also SMB, you see that the other two very important solution plays are ERP transformation with AI. So even if you don't use any dynamic solution, it's very related to leveraging Copilot Studio, creating agents typically, extending Copilot to connect to whatever ERP backend system, which could be, of course, Dynamics, but could be anything, even a simple Excel file, as we still see in many organizations. And then the other one is scaled business operations with AI, is all about, for us, most of us, being focused on modern work, on Microsoft 365, on what I should say today, AI workforce, on going to the next level and starting to deploy Business Central and starting to make Business Central, business applications at the end of the day, part of the mix. So this is the focus area for SMB, and then the other very related solution plays still in AI business process in yellow, as you can see, for corporate accounts are certainly also very, very relevant. I'm not saying that scale with cloud and AI endpoints and converged communication is not relevant, but from a Microsoft view, they see these topics, these solution areas and the related scenarios more specific to enterprise. But then again, of course, whatever your customer wants, whatever makes sense for your customer, check out these solution plays because they're certainly very, very relevant. And on the other slide, which nicely summarizes what we discussed in part one, is this slide. Again, you see here only the solution plays related to AI workforce, not the business applications ones. I zoom into, as you can see, the two most important ones, which are Copilot and AI agents at work and Secure AI Productivity. And the whole point is that per solution play, we discuss the customer opportunity and the partner opportunity, of course. Most importantly, the win formulas. What is typically what you should do at what stage in the journey that you make with your customer. It's about partner capability. It's kind of a maturity framework that you can use yourself to see where you are in being ready for the market in a way. It's about how to do demand generation, which is very related to a topic that we will cover a little bit more detail today. And it's about partner skilling, of course, which again is also very related to the next topic that I will discuss. Now, the next topic is about section 4 and section 5, and we start with build your practice. And when talking about building your practice, in the solution area playbook for AI business solutions, will see all these sections. I will only discuss the ones which are not grayed out here, and we start with Microsoft AI Cloud Partner Program. The other ones are certainly also important, but I think these ones are the most relevant ones, especially for partners focused on SMB, and most partners are focused on SMB and corporate accounts actually. Now let's start with MICPP, Microsoft AI Cloud Partner Program, the very nice abbreviation that we still all struggle a little bit with, but I love it, the Microsoft AI Cloud Partner Program. It's not new to you, but what was introduced actually last fiscal year is that there are 3 flavors of what they call launch packages, or benefit packages. And there is the launch benefits, there is the core benefits, and there is the expanded benefits. A question I get a lot, especially from customers that only have the launch benefits and the core benefits, is how do we get access to Microsoft 365 Copilot license as a partner? Don't we get some kind of promo pricing or reduction? No, you don't. The only way to get a free version of Microsoft 365 Copilot is by going to the expanded benefits. And the idea is that you go for launch, and on top of that, you can always acquire expanded benefits. The only really, and the same thing goes actually for Teams Pro Premium and Teams Room Pro. And probably the most important point I want to make is go for a designation, because only when you go for a designation, you start to get a number of free licenses for both Microsoft 365 Copilot, Teams Premium and Teams Room Pro. And of course, on top of that, you can go for a specialization, which even on top of what you already have as a partner that has a solution partner designation, you get even more. So this, it's not new, but it's quite important. And on the slide, you see actually many more of these differences and value packages. Specifically for, in this case, business applications. And we zoom into two of them. Very important one is Business Central and Sales Enterprise. And you see here, even with the launch benefit, you get access to Business Central. So if you don't have yet an ERP package, well, go for Business Central. It's part of launch benefits. And even more importantly, I guess, you don't have yet a CRM package, well, go for Sales Enterprise. You have access to 4 seats as part of the launch benefits. And of course, if you go for a specialization, you get many more. And if you go for a designation before that, you get much more than what is included in the launch, core, or expanded benefits. Again, not new, but I think it's very nice to see again a nice summary. Now, why would you go for a specialization? Specifically from an AI workforce perspective. First of all, from a standout to customers perspective, show that you are committed, show that you're aligned, so that you're on top of what Microsoft does for you, the end customer, by nicely aligning to Microsoft resources. It gives you also access to these resources as part, and many of the resources are only available to you if you are in a designation. Now, the other very important thing, and this really got nicely finalized in last fiscal year, is that there is now an SMB path for each of the designations. So depending on whether you're focused on SMB or enterprise, you now have other criteria to meet. And that's certainly well appreciated for many things that are related to incentives at the end of the day. And then at some point in time, you want to go to specialization. And there are many ways to go to specialize, or many areas where you can specialize in. And here you see a nice overview of all the specializations that you might want to aim for from an AI workforce perspective. But probably more important, I think, is this one. If you go for specialization, especially when we talk about the incentives, which will be discussed again as part of the section number 5 in this video, and I will certainly record later on a full video on the incentives, both the MCP incentives and the pre-sales and the post-sales incentives that are certainly also covered here. But many of the post-sales and even many of the pre-sale incentives require you to have a specialization. Keep that in mind, very important. If not, you leave money on the table. The same thing goes for AI business process specialization. Again, differentiate yourself by specializing in one or more of these areas. And again, you will do that because also it gives you access to more incentives that are only available if you go for a specialization. Now, also this slide is quite interesting. On the specializations, here you see all the specializations for both, for AI business process. And here nicely we show the ones that are most relevant, probably as I already showed on the summary slide in the beginning, for SMB. And here you see nicely the requirements that I'm not going to explain once more, which are nicely also again explained in this slide. That being said, the other point that I want to cover is campaign in a box. Of course, co-selling is important, deployment success program is interesting, the fast track engagement model is interesting, but I think for most of us, focusing on SMB, core SMB, I think that's not the most important thing to learn about. And actually you can check the slides, it's not always very elaborated, just one slide for each of these topics. And maybe if there is a need, if there is an ask, I might do a video on each of these topics later. But campaign in the box is certainly very relevant for us to be successful. If you think about win formulas, as we showed them in the previous recording in part 1 of this actually topic, you saw me always starting based on the MSEM, the Microsoft Customer Engagement methodology, that the first stage is about listen and consult. And as part of listen and consult, you will typically make sure that you start to run campaigns, that you do your marketing, that you do your marketing automation. In order to help you with that, Microsoft provides us a lot of resources, and they named it Campaign in a Box. It's a selection of assets, many assets, for creating videos, social media posts, doing presentations, doing online stuff. Typically what you do from a marketing perspective, and they provide all these assets as part of a campaign in the box. And they have a campaign in the box per, of course, solution area. Now it comes actually in 2 flavors. It comes in the flavor that they call the Partner Marketing Center, and that's the most obvious one. You go there you see the link, and you can download resources, and you can download email messages, presentations, all kinds of stuff in order to do your marketing. If you do not have your own marketing automation engine, you can go for DMC, the Digital Marketing Center on Demand, and it's actually the same content that is available as part of PMC, but that you can actually run and schedule as part of a marketing engine as a service that Microsoft provides through DMC. So quite interesting. If you don't know it, go there and check it out. Specifically to the Microsoft 365 Copilot, there are also these 2 links that I absolutely recommend checking out. Specifically for SMB, you will get to this website. On this website, and that's why I wanted to show you, you will see that the content is available in multiple languages, including Dutch and French. So even if you are not going to use the content, get inspired. Copy where it makes sense and ignore where it doesn't make sense. But it would be a pity that you're not leveraging it. Now, as part of all the content, there is a lot of content. There are also these 2 presentations that I certainly also recommend checking out in order to plan and execute at the end of the day your marketing activities. So those people among us that are focusing on planning, on marketing, on doing recruitment of new customers, check out these resources to be successful. Okay, that being said, let's zoom out again to the previous slide. And on the previous slide, we discussed indeed the availabilities. And here you see the roadmap of all the content, of all the assets. And as I said before, there is a campaign in a box for each of the solution plays. And here you see that some of them are already available. Some of them will be available later in future quarters. And you also see here that some are only available on PMC and some are only available on DMC actually. Well, on PMC and DMC. What I also wanted to point out here is that the one related to security, secure productivity in SMB, is quite new and is probably one of the most interesting to check out at this very moment. So even if you're focused on AI, on Copilot, on agents, as we all know, the foundation of all this, the very important foundation of all this, and also from a revenue perspective and opportunity perspective for us as a partner, is security, is Purview, is actually at least Microsoft 365 Business Premium. And actually this campaign, the Secure Productivity SMB campaign, is the one you will want to check out as part of your marketing activities. Voila! Now there is also a next topic, which is CloudAscent, and I'm skipping Spark. Now I'm not going to discuss Spark here, but keep in mind that at the end of the day, the idea of Spark and CloudAscent is the same thing, but CloudAscent is really fully focused on core SMB, while Spark is the same thing, but focused on corporate accounts, on large enterprise accounts. And it's especially important for those among us that are focused on larger managed accounts, where we also will want to bring into account signals, as they call it, information actually from Microsoft internally, from the internal account teams. But for CloudAscent is actually the one that we want to talk most of it here, because it's very related to SMB. And here you see also the abbreviation that is sometimes already used, CLAS. CloudAscent is an engine powered by AI, of course, machine learning and customer intelligence. And what we mean with customer intelligence is actually this part of the story. It's all kind of information that Microsoft is able to collect that they can use to come to what they call propensity. Propensity is a very nice word. I have to learn myself too. It's actually giving us some kind of probability information about whether the customer is ready to buy. And they do that based on this model. The lowest is educate and nurture. Clearly the customer is not yet ready to buy, but evaluate means this customer is marketing ready. So you should invite them into, for instance, a briefing session. And act now means that the customer is actually ready to sales, to actually land the deal. So all levels are important. If they are on educate and nurture, make sure that you get them to evaluate. And if you're having customers with a propensity in evaluate, make sure that you invite them into a briefing, into an online webinar, so that you can get them to the act now level. So very simple. The call to action there, and by the way, for direct resellers, just go to the partner center, and in the partner center you can download your Excel file, because it's an Excel file. And for indirect partners, there is also even a Power BI flavor, but for that you'll need to contact your partner development manager. My call to action is very simple. Go to ekm.ms CloudAscent to learn more about CloudAscent. Download actually the Excel file. And this one again is important. Then leverage the resources, the marketing resources, just like the resources I showed you specific to Microsoft 365 Copilot and at large actually the PMC and DMC, but especially this URL guides you to, from a broad SMB perspective, to all GTM resources. Again, here you see nicely all URLs. I'll make sure that these URLs get into the description below here. Okay, so very complete, as you can see. We are ready to part 5, the last part of part 2 and the last part of the discussion, the unpacking of the AI Business Solutions Partner Playbook. Now, investments in a way is a repeat of what is already covered, first of all, in Quick Bytes number 2. And it's also a repeat actually of what we discussed in part 1 as part of the win formulas. But then again, here you get a little bit more information and also a little bit more figures about the criteria, about the requirements in order to get the incentives. So investments about incentives. Microsoft does investments, and these investments for you are the incentives. What you will see in the playbook is, first of all, a section showing you an overview of all the incentives per MSEM stage. And they also tell you what the measurement framework is. And the same thing they do for AI business process. They show you in an overview all the incentives aligned to MSEM. And then they show you the measurements and how they measure your success, which is a new addition compared to last fiscal year, actually. I'll come back to that in a point. And then I do something special here. Depending on which solution play you're focused on, they provide you incentives. Now, what you will see here is that I take Copilot and Agents at Work, probably the most important one. And then from AI Business Process, there is Innovate with low-code AI and agents, and ERP Transformation with AI. And you can combine these in a way, yeah? And then you can say these three typically allow you to leverage incentives that are available as part of the Copilot with Power Accelerate. What I had in the very beginning, there is also something that is called CSP incentives. I'm not discussing CSP incentives here. I'm discussing here pre-sales and post-sales incentives. And these specifically to these solution plays are named or packaged as part of the Copilot with Power Accelerate. It's most related to Copilot Agent and Work, then very related to Power Platform, and of course, somehow, of course, always related to ERP transformation with AI. Now, and the other two that I typically want to combine is secure productivity, it's the hero one, but also converged communication, which is about teams at the end of the day. And teams is actually is part of business productivity, about AI productivity, about secure productivity. So that's why I combine them here. It's also because there is not a converged communication specific incentive. There is not a specific incentive for ERP transformation AI. They are always very combined. And I will discuss all these slides. Then the same thing for endpoint. In June, let's say, for instance, there is also a very specific set of incentives per MSAM stage, pre-sales and post-sales. And then all the others, ERP and CRM related and Business Central related, are nicely summarized with these two slides that I will discuss. So let's get started with AI Workforce. In AI Workforce, you see again what I discussed, I introduced already as part of Quick Bytes number 2. I did create of the same visual a much nicer visual as part of Quick Bytes number 2. And here you see in green the briefings, the immersion briefings. It's a 1-to-few sessions that you do for Copilot and agents, that you do for secure AI and productivity. There's not such a thing for endpoints. And the blue ones are like the one-to-ones, envisioning or even proof of concept workshops that you do one-to-one with customers. So for each of them there are incentives, and there are not just resources for you to do it, but you get paid for doing it. Of course there are criteria that I'm discussing in a moment. And in the post-sales, that was pre-sales, in the post-sales there are in yellow the deployment accelerators. Also, if you then actually do the deployment, you can get a reward. And again, the CSP incentives is another story that I will cover in another video. It's something that that is of course foundational to all the incentives that you will want to look at, but typically in the perfect world you will always have CSP incentives. You will also have an incentive for doing one-to-fews, one-to-one, and doing deployments. So there are so many incentives, and it's a combination of that that might us make successful from a money perspective, I guess. So this is the slide. Just check out Quick Bytes number 2, which shows this probably in a much better way than it's shown here on the slide. The criteria, and that's quite new, especially this point. This was not yet true in fiscal 25. They will check what you have been doing in the last 12 months. So it's a rolling window as is being shown here on top. And you need to be successful for 33% of the customers. What we mean with success, I will discuss later per solution play with the measurements, but they will check whether you have been doing, for instance, and this is just not about, this is not about in the briefings, this is about the one-to-one and vision workshops. And they check that whether you already did do a one-to-one and vision workshop with other customers. And if you have been successful over and over, you will probably continue to receive the incentive. If you haven't been successful, at some point in time, Microsoft will not give you the money that was promised. That's an important point to keep in mind when I discuss them. And we will, of course, start with this one, the middle one, because that's the most relevant one for most of us. So once more, here you see what it is. So from a pre-sales perspective, there is first of all the one-to-many. Again, check the agent, the session number 2. Here you see that for customers which are really extra small, so less than 500 users, you can get $2,000 for running and one-to-few immersion briefing. But there are some requirements. One of them, you need at least to have the Copilot Jumpstart ready tier 2. Check out part 1 of this topic, so the previous video where I discussed Jumpstart ready. It's the middle level of where you can get as a Jumpstart partner. Or you need to be in a specialization. It's not on the slide, but at the end of the day, you need a specialization. And for those CSP partners that have more than 100 customers, you might also be eligible for these 200K. But there are some requirements I will discuss later. And then for the one-to-one, and that's the ones where we check out whether you have been successful in the past for at least 33%. For the one-to-one Envision workshops, you can get money and you see the amount of money, but it's only available as part of customers that have at least 500 users. Now, again, for many of us, well, we don't have customers with more than 500 users, so it might not be relevant. But again, it's important for you to know, and that's the whole point, because one day you will find a customer with more than 500 users, and then for sure, many of us will be competing to get the deal, and don't forget to leverage this in order to bring the best price. And then for the post-sales, the Power Deployment Accelerated, the same story. It needs to be at least extra small, at least 500 users, and there is a potential of 5,000 euro to get, or dollar to get. Now, specifically to the criteria, again, in pre-sales, you have the 1-to-few, the immersion briefings. It needs to be a briefing where you have at least 10 customers that each of them have, or in total have 100 seats. That's the whole idea. So 10 customers with at least 100 seats. To be honest, it's not clear to me. It can be 100 seats in total, or it's 10 customers with each of them 100 seats. I'm not really sure. We'll come back to that. Anyway, there is not a specific success measure. They don't check out your revenue on Copilot, and they don't check out the monthly active users. So they don't do that. And there you see some other abbreviations, the Copilot sales revenue and the Power Platform revenue, which is typically related to Power Platform revenue. Why? Because agents, they need, of course, Copilot Studio, they need resources, and they need typically resources which are provided actually by the Power Platform. Keep that in mind. Also, from a pre-sales perspective, there's a 1-to-1, and that's only, remember, available to extra small, not to extra small. So at least 500 users per customer. And there you see, for instance, here, that the revenue at least needs to be 5K for the Copilot sales, and needs to be, what is it, 25K for Power Platform. These are the requirements. So if you are landing a deal in pre-sales, and remember what I said about the 30% success rate, that's what they check. Have you been successful in meeting these criteria? If so, you will receive the money which was shown, and also shown here in the payout section. Voila. And then in post-sales, the deployment phase, again, only available to customers with at least 100 users. Again, 100 users, monthly users, and you can get a payout of, as you can see there, of 5K at the minimum. Now again, for many of us, this is not relevant, but it might become relevant for some of their customers, and probably those customers are probably the most important ones for you to land as part of your business. And those partners that have been leveraging this probably make a better chance to win the deal, because they will be able to put down a very competing price. A lot of talking, but the nice thing about that is once you understand this, this way of talking about is true for Azure, is true for security, and is true for everything related to AI business solutions, and for all the solutions plays. It's a framework which comes over and over again in all the incentives. Now, if you check out Microsoft 365 Accelerate, a little bit the same story. I'm not going to explain the things, you see it. Again, some partner eligibility requirements. Most importantly, for this one, you need to have a specialization. Keep that in mind. Or if you're a CSP with more than 100 customers, you might also be eligible. But I think here the key word is specialization. And you see, if you have a customer with less than 500 users, less than 500, so small, and you can bring multiple of these customers in one room, you can get 2,000 euros. But you need a specialization, that's the whole point. If you don't have a specialty, you can still do immersion briefing, leverage the content that Microsoft makes available as part of the campaigns, but you won't be able to claim any money. For the other pre-sales activity, the one-to-one sessions, the Envision workshops, the same story. Here you can get up to 15K, and field means when Microsoft initiates it. That's really for the larger accounts, the managed accounts, but I'm really focusing here on the unmanaged accounts. Voila. So this is clearly important, and that's the post-sales. You do the deployment, and there you see it needs to be minimum 300 seats. So less than 500, but minimum 300. And then again, if you have a specialization and you have been doing the deployment successfully, you can claim actually this money shown on the slide. Voila, and then the measures, again, for pre-sales, the one to few, there is actually no measure in dollar, but of course you need at least 10 customers, each of them, I think, with 100 seats in one room, and then you can claim the 2K. For the other pre-sales activity, which is one-to-one, same story, and you see we need to see a deal of Microsoft 365 of at least 50K. And again, remember the 33% success rate which come into play here. And then for post-sales, the deployment, more than, well, between 300 and 500 is a summary actually. And for the rest, there is, of course, not a revenue-related thing here. It's about deployment. Payout is 18K. So quite interesting. And then I think you got the point. It's the same frame that comes back and back over and over again. We're almost done. The last one is then related to AI business process. So business applications, dynamics, the same story. You see here an overview. I already discussed that in Quick Bytes number 2 with a nicer slide. Same story. The blue is the one to few. The green is the green is the one to few. The blue is the one to one. And then you have no post-sales stuff, but you have indeed at the transaction, you have incentives, which I typically don't discuss as part of the session. But here, since we do not have post-sales deployment things, we probably want to focus there. And again, very simple. What are the success criteria? If it's about a briefing session, one-to-many, there is just one very important limit. You can typically, and you will typically invite multiple customers in one room or one webinar, and you can submit a maximum of 50 approved claims per customer ID. So it's very possible that you have 50 times 50 users from the same company, and that's what they say here. And then the one-to-one, also there, it's always one customer, one-to-one, and you can do it only once. You cannot run it twice. You cannot run 2 Envision workshops for the same customer. And also, there is a cap for the Envision workshops and both immersion briefings that are being shown here. And then finally, I think that's my almost very last slide. Here on the post-sales, not post-sales, at the transaction. In the past, typically a Dynamics customer would go for an enterprise agreement or would go for online service advisor agreement. Today, they typically for what I show here, MCAE, the modern version of that. That's one of the requirements. And then for small and medium business, what you see here is that you will get rewarded. And that's actually what you will see, and I have to discuss that in a separate video in the CSP incentives, that Microsoft starts to reward you for growth more than even before. And that is showing also here. That's what I mean here with the high watermark. They check where you were before, and on top of that, if you have been able to adding more customers, users actually, to a deal, you get rewarded for sales and services Dynamics 365 sales and service, you get $80 per seat that you have been able to add on top of what you already had before. Of course, again, you need not a specialization here, you need a designation here, and that's the whole point. The next slide is actually a summary of what I already discussed before, but I like to highlight once more that for both the immersion briefings, one to few, one to many, and the one-to-ones, the inversion workshops, you need the specialization in order to be eligible. Voila, we have been going through all topics as part of the partner playbook for AI business solutions. My only call to action for you is very simple. Download the solution area partner playbooks. We only discussed now the first one. Later, actually, when you're watching this week, when I release it, we'll also make available a session on cloud and AI platforms and the Azure playbook. And later, the week after, you will also see a playbook related to security. I won't do it in part 1 and part 2. It will be one session where I will step on top of what we discussed here, because the structure is the same. So we'll have shorter sessions and not explaining everything over and over again that was already explained here. Voila, that was it. Again, thank you very much, dear SmartWorks, TD Synnex, also Arrow, Copaco, Clear Media, and Ingram Micro, because these sessions are only possible thanks to you. And dear subscriber, thank you for subscribing. If you didn't subscribe yet, go to the link here below, on the left below the video, and subscribe to make sure that you don't miss out on all future recordings. Thank you very much, and see you in episode number 5. Bye-bye.